John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson united on Daniel Faalele, and their message was pretty similar. We talk about that and so much more coming up on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for being here on this Purple Friday, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. Also, thank you so much to all the everydayers, first-time listeners, and if you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. 5 days a week plus more here of daily Ravens content and coverage. Jam-packed episode today. In the first part of the show, John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson united over Daniel Faalele. They were both asked about him, and their message was very similar. Then in the second part of the show, the Ravens' injury situation, and something that's honestly turned into a bit of a saga here over the last couple of days, has taken a wild turn. So we'll talk about the Ravens' injuries in general and just what's going on, particularly with Nate Wiggins. Then in the final part of the show, we'll dive into a little bit of a Ravens and Lions preview. So we got a lot coming your way on the show today. I want to remind everyone and tell everyone today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, we'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Man, I'll tell you, this is exciting. Ravens play on Monday Night Football. We know the Ravens love the primetime lights. We know Lamar Jackson loves playing against the NFC, 24-2 record as a starter. And we're going to have a really good game on Monday. But let's talk about Daniel Faalele a little bit here. Obviously, I think he is one of the most controversial figures among the Ravens fan base. I don't really think that's a super hot take or anything. But since the Ravens play on Monday night, the Ravens had their first day of media availability on Thursday for the week. It's not Wednesday. It is, it's just everything's pushed a day backwards because of the Monday night game. And John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson both were asked about Daniel Faalele. And I think it's interesting because their messaging was decently similar. I mean, they had different answers, but you can kind of take away the same thing from what they both had to say. So John Harbaugh, we'll start with him. He was asked about the offensive line and Daniel Faalele in particular. What have you seen that you like from him is what the question was. And Harbaugh says, what do I like about Daniel Faalele? I like the fact that he's a big, strong guy who moves his feet well. He bends. He's getting better at using his hands. I think he's been doing a really good job in pass protection for the most part. His run blocking has been good, but he needs to be more consistent in both areas. Then he goes on to say, I think what you're asking me is, I'll just give you the direct answer. He's had some bad plays that they were talking about probably that haven't looked great, but he's a good football player. He's getting better and he's young. Hopefully he'll continue to improve. That's what we're hoping for. I know one thing, we're coaching him up really hard every day. And we expect him to go out there and play his best football game on Monday night, and that's what he's going to try to do. Now, this answer from John Harbaugh got a lot of flack from at least what I saw on social media, because the thing with Faalele is we know that he is inconsistent. Harbaugh is essentially admitting, yeah, he has been, inconsistent by saying that he has to be more consistent in both of those areas, right? But we've seen, in my opinion, players benched for less. And this is not me like saying, Ravens, they needed to never do this with Daniel Faalele. It was a risk in the first place. They took that risk. We're far past that point right now. But you need to do what you can if you're the Ravens to help your team on a weekly basis. Now, look, I want to say this too. Daniel Faalele is far from the only problem on the Ravens offensive line right now. This is not just a Daniel Faalele issue. In fact, Daniel Faalele, I think he graded out as the second best Ravens offensive lineman in a lot of different areas. He actually, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was actually the PFF's their third best pass blocker. So only behind Garrett Bowles in Denver and Trent Williams in San Francisco, Daniel Faalele was the third best pass blocker in week 2, according to PFF. Now, sometimes stats or metrics, they can be, I don't want to say deceiving, but maybe not tell the whole story. The 33rd team said that Roger Rosengarten has yet to allow a sack or a pressure on 55 pass blocking snaps this season, which, my eyes tell me that is not true. So again, some people live by PFF. Some people don't like PFF. It's something that, in my opinion, with Faalele, it's just that he's not like losing every rep, right? He's not going out there and every single rep is bad. But when he loses very, very loudly. It's something we've been saying for a long time on this show. And so the thing that the Ravens need right now is consistency on their offensive line. And again, it's not just a Faalele problem, but I think he's kind of under the magnifying glass because, this was an experiment the Ravens did. Faalele played tackle. The Ravens decided to kick him into guard last season, and they do have Ben Cleveland on the roster, and clearly they don't like Ben, but this is a pretty clear stance from John Harbaugh on Daniel Faalele that, in my opinion, he's going to just continue to ride this thing out. So, I mean, there's nothing that you or I or anybody outside the organization can necessarily do about that, regardless of, if we think it's the best decision or not. I mean, I think that they should try to, at this point, it is what it is. Like, that's the thing is the Ravens kind of handcuffed themselves here to Faalele, whether intentional or not, where your only other option is Ben Cleveland. I'm like, yeah, you might want to give him a shot. But outside of that, it's like your third round pick and Emory Jones is injured. Who knows if we see him this season? I mean, you can maybe kick Joe Noteboom inside, but he didn't look particularly great in some of that preseason action. It's like they didn't necessarily address the position, right? They went almost all in on trusting these young guards in both Voorhees, who had a unfortunately bad game against the Browns, and Faalele. And that's what their trust system is right now. That is what they essentially wanted. Like, it was very clear from the jump. This is exactly the plan they wanted. And, so far, again, not just a Faalele issue, but the offensive line in general has just not been good. In fact, there are multiple metrics to support that. And it's unfortunate because if you've been listening to me for years on Locked On Ravens, you know that to me, I continue to say over and over again that it all starts up front on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. So there was a stat here. This is a bunch. It's a composite grade. So PFF grade, SIS blown block percentage, and ESPN pass block win rate. This comes from Computer Cowboy on Twitter. The Ravens, out of all the offensive lines, all the composite scores, everything added up together, the Ravens are the third worst offensive line right now in the NFL. Again, that is combining PFF, SIS, and ESPN scores of different metrics. They have a 22 score, and that's not good. The lowest is Tennessee. They have 5. Next lowest is the Rams with 21. The Ravens come in at 22. So they are the 30th best, third worst, again, offensive line in the league, according to these numbers. Now, you can also look at some run block and pass blocking composite ratings, according to Computer Cowboy here. Not necessarily ranked in any way, shape, or form, but again, you can kind of tell the Ravens on this chart, and if you want to go look at the charts, that they are on Twitter. Computer Cowboy, again, is where you can find them. The Ravens are right now a little bit better in pass protection than they are at run blocking, but they're still in that bad category. And we saw Ronnie Stanley really struggle on Sunday against the Browns. Andrew Voorhees, I mentioned, had a bad game. Faalele lost on a couple of reps, although, he was on it. Like, that wasn't one of Faalele's worst games against Cleveland. Like, we've seen worse from Faalele, but again, the consistency, if the Ravens want to have a shot here on that offensive line, is going to have to get better. Not just from him. I mean, Roger Rosengarten too has struggled a bit with consistency, in my opinion. Like, the stats and the metrics can tell us one thing. My eyes tell me something different. So it needs to improve, and there are a lot of different nuances and little things that go on the offensive line, and that's something I do want to dive into over the course of the next week or so as we kind of figure out how this offensive line actually looks. But Lamar Jackson kind of echoed John Harbaugh's sentiments on Daniel Faalele. He was asked on what the critics of Daniel Faalele may not understand about his play, and Lamar said, quote, he's an NFL guard. Every position in the NFL is hard to play. It's easy to just watch and tell somebody you should be doing this. It's easy to direct someone, but it's hard to do. I'll leave it at that. And again, these guys like Lamar, John Harbaugh, they're not going to go up there and just like criticize Daniel Faalele. Like, that's not their style. They're not going to throw him under the bus. Lamar certainly would never do that. And for Harbaugh, I don't think that he's going to do that with Faalele either. He'll certainly do it feels like, with other players, but he's not going to do that with Faalele, in my opinion. Now, I did appreciate that he did say that, yeah, you know what, there are some things he needs to get better at, things he needs to be more consistent at. It's not like he just got up there and, and praised them all the way around. But I don't see the Ravens making a move there. Do I think that they should? Yeah, probably. And again, it's not just a Faalele issue, but you got to make a change somewhere. It's not going to be Stanley. It's not going to be Rosengarten. It's not going to be Linderbaum. Is Voorhees that guy or is Faalele that guy? That was the weakness that everybody identified going into the season. It was the weakness, honestly, people identified going into the offseason. And the Ravens only addressed it by drafting a rookie in the third round that might not play this season again. So that, to me, is, I think, where the disconnect was. And they are stuck with us. Again, there's no Patrick McCary anymore to come in and save the day of, he can play all 5 positions. If Faalele or Voorhees is struggling, boom, just plug McCary in. It doesn't work that way anymore. McCary's not in Baltimore. So, look, it's looking very far ahead to the offseason. The Ravens obviously have a very good shot to win a Super Bowl this year. But if anything, regardless of what they do, winning the Super Bowl, losing it, early playoff exit, whatever, they need to adjust the guard positions in the offseason. And that is even if Faalele and Voorhees show that, hey, they're quality starters. Maybe if Faalele turns it around. I mean, look, one can hope, right? I think at this point, it's just like, you might not like him as the starter, but at this point, he kind of is what they're going to roll with. So I guess we got to hope he performs well. And look, I'm rooting for him, right? I hope he continues to improve, right? I hope he does. But I want to see that consistency. I truly do. Again, I'm not coming out here and saying that he's played like horrible football on every single snap of this season through 2 weeks, but the losses are very loud. And with that does come a lot of criticism, especially when they are in big moments. I mean, especially if you want to go back to last season, like what we saw in the first couple weeks of the year, first preseason game against the Colts, obviously that was a very loud loss. Like it's those types of things, and they can come in pretty big moments. And that is what is unfortunate. But again, the whole O-line needs to play a little better, in my opinion. It's not just a Faalele problem. I'll continue to hammer that point home. Coming up, though, in the second part of the show, Ravens injury situation. They got some good news on a lot of different fronts, but there is an injury saga that is, I guess, in progress that is getting pretty wild. So stay tuned. We'll talk about that and a lot more coming up on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For the Ravens, Lamar Jackson delivered in a big way. Even though the offense didn't necessarily play up to their full capacity, you look up and the team has 41 points. Lamar Jackson has 4 touchdowns, and he's throwing it to DeAndre Hopkins, Tez Walker, Tyler Wallace for touchdowns. And when the pressure was on, Lamar certainly came through in a lot of moments for them on Sunday. No hesitation, no delay. If you've been watching Lamar week after week, this performance was not a fluke. Lamar Jackson is on a streak. And just like Lamar Jackson delivered for the Ravens, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. And the show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel's making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building the same game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. And right now, that Ravens and Lions matchup on Monday night, in my opinion, is going to be the game of the week. And over on FanDuel, the Ravens are 5.5-point home favorites in this one. And I like that number for the Ravens. The Ravens roster is really good. So is the Lions. Going to be a really good game again. But I just feel like the Ravens dropping to 1-2 would be pretty catastrophic for them. And they want to make another statement after beating the Browns. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Moving along on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you. Again, 5 days a week plus more here on Locked On Ravens. We're a 5-day-a-week plus more Ravens podcast here, and we have you covered video form and audio form. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button in video form. Follow along and subscribe in audio form as well. We have a lot other than the regular daily show, which is this. We have bonus episodes on the weekends when the headlines permit, and during the regular season, there are a lot of headlines, so we do some bonus episodes. We also have Locked On Ravens watch-alongs, where we will watch every game on stream, every play. We'll react to it. Those are really fun. We do instant reaction streams right after the games. We do the Locked On Ravens Squad show with myself, Sam Njoku, and former Ravens receiver Kadri Ismail. That's twice per week on Wednesdays and after games. So we have so much content, and we have upgraded the audio. We have now upgraded the background, right? This is the first full week with the new background, and we're still adding stuff onto it. We got the Raven in the bottom right. We got the crab in the top right. We got the crane/bird in the top left. And then we got the penguin in the bottom left. So for those who are watching in video form, that is that. And then the audio form, again, we got the audio going. So always working to improve, to make things happen here on Locked On Ravens. But let's dive into Ravens injury situation. Now, look, the Ravens got good news. I'll tell you what, there was a lot of good news. Isaiah Likely back at practice on Thursday. Hopefully he's going to be able to suit up for Monday night, right? That's the biggest story here, in my opinion, in terms of potential adds to this Ravens lineup. He'd be a huge addition, obviously, to this offense for multiple different reasons. He was officially limited on the injury report. A couple of guys not practicing, including Nnamdi Madubuike with his neck injury, Patrick Ricard with the calf, still lingering for him, Kyle Van Noy's hamstring. We've gotten reports that he probably will have to miss a couple of weeks, so I'm not really anticipating him playing in this game. Now, Marlon Humphrey, he practiced in full with that groin injury. I know that some people were worried about that. I was also kind of like, what's the deal with the groin injury for Marlon? But seems like he'll be good to go. John Jenkins was limited due to a personal reason. Rasheen Ali was limited with a concussion that he suffered in that week 2 game. So hopefully both those guys will be good to go as well. And hopefully the Ravens will activate 4 running backs, assuming Ali is healthy. Because I think we all want Keaton Mitchell to be active here. I think the Ravens are doing a disservice by not activating him, but that's a conversation for a different time. The big story here, though, it's not Isaiah Likely. It's Nate Wiggins. Nate Wiggins, he's on the injury report as a groin. He has a groin. He did not practice on Thursday. There is a controversial, I guess, theory on how Nate Wiggins actually got injured. So he had the interception on Joe Flacco, right? That was the big thing. He returned it like a bajillion yards, got taken down at the 6-yard line or right around. So Nate Wiggins, I'm just going to kind of run this through. So envision this with me. Nate, after he returns it, he gets tackled. He pops up. He starts to celebrate, walk towards the Ravens fans in the stands. About 2-3 seconds later, as his teammates are kind of descending on him to celebrate, Chidobe Awuzie, obviously his teammate, just launches himself in celebration into Nate Wiggins and just tackles him. And Nate was clearly not expecting it. And Nate just kind of, Chidobe Awuzie tackles him. He goes down to the ground. And the camera on the main angle pans to Joe Flacco. He's dejected. He's walking to the sideline and all that, pans across. And then it cuts back to the celebration of, Nate's teammates surrounding him, all the defenders there. But Nate is on the ground. He looks to be in pain. He was kind of like on both knees, and he was kind of like waving his teammates off. And, all of a sudden the jubilant celebration turns into like, oh, what's wrong? And you can see Awuzie getting up. And then Jamison Hensley kind of said after that moment, Nate didn't really look the same again. And apparently, and there are multiple different reports that some players might have been calling for trainers after that happened. Others are saying that he really needed O2 and oxygen, and he just was really winded, and he was celebrating with the cameras 10 seconds later after that. So there are a lot of different hey, what's going on here? But again, look, I will say this for sure. It was reckless by Awuzie to do that, regardless of if Nate was injured by him jumping on him or not. Doing that is extremely reckless because there's a possibility that happens, right? Nate's a smaller guy compared to some of these other defenders. And while certainly, you're hyped for your guys, you want to celebrate, that's something that shouldn't happen. And I'm sure that regardless of if Nate was injured that way or not, I'm sure we're not going to see that again from the Ravens, and they will probably be a little more cautious with their celebrations because Nate's a big part of the team. And again, I don't know if that was the instance where he got injured, but he was limping in the fourth quarter. And I didn't know that this was actually asked to John Harbaugh after But apparently, like, someone asked John Harbaugh about everything that went on with Wiggins, and apparently Harbaugh didn't see it. And the report, I think it was Jeff Rebeck who asked the question on Monday. Jeff ended up saying, or someone said, the players were calling for a trainer, and I think that they thought he got hurt on the sideline, and he Harbaugh said, I don't think that was a real thing there. Then the reporter chimed in again and said it looked like Nate Wiggins was limping. And John Harbaugh said, no, he was fine. He is fine. Well, Harbaugh's tune changed from he is fine to hopefully he is fine, in kind of a eerie, eerie is probably the wrong word, a mysterious tone about Nate. He was asked about Nate Wiggins not being at practice on Thursday, and John Harbaugh's answer was, is Nate Wiggins okay? He's generally okay. Yes, he wasn't good enough to practice today, though, so hopefully he'll be good enough to practice tomorrow. I don't know what the heck that means. I don't know what the heck that means. And again, we know John Harbaugh is very tight to the vest with the injuries. It's not going to give anything away here, but just a very weird situation. I wouldn't be shocked if Nate did get hurt with Chidobe Awuzie jumping on him. I don't know. Like, I'm not going to come on here and sit here right now and tell you, yes, for certain, Nate Wiggins got hurt that way, because I don't know the answer to that question. It'd be disingenuous for me to say that because I truly don't know. But it doesn't look good. Like, it doesn't look good. He again, if you've seen the clip, you know what I'm talking about, but he launches himself into Nate. And that's something that you can't have, especially when you know how important Nate is to the team and any player. Like, imagine that story. Like, if it actually is true, like the Ravens lose a promising corner for, even if it's just one game, due to a teammate going out and jumping on a guy like that's pretty crazy. So it's a wild situation here, and it honestly overshadowed at points likely coming back to practice on social media from what I saw. I mean, I posted both angles. There's the clip of the all-22 and Chidobe jumping on him, and then there's the main angle as well. So we're going to have to keep this thing updated here. I don't know if anything else will come out about it, and honestly, I'm not sure we're ever going to know about whether Nate was injured that way or not. But at the end of the day, the Ravens need Nate out there on Monday night, especially with the Lions and having Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, and a bunch of other pass-catching weapons. So hopefully Nate will be good to go, but some mystery around how he ended up getting injured, because, you know, a lot of people observed that he was not looking like himself after that interception and in the fourth quarter. So coming up in the final part of the show, we'll dive into a little bit of a Ravens and Lions preview. So be sure to stay tuned. A lot coming your way on the show. This episode is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's a local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. And there's a local spot in Fed Hill, Be More Licks, in that area that comes alive every Sunday during football season. Fed Hill is absolutely jumping during football season. You got everyone in the team's colors. The energy is incredible. It feels like the entire area is there cheering together, which is absolutely unbelievable. And the local spots, they're what makes the neighborhood feel like home, and so many of them run on Square. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnNFL to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. Continuing on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you, rounding out this Purple Friday edition of the show. Again, week one with the new background. We have the audio upgraded. I'm really pumped to continue to add on to this and continue to make upgrades and continue to provide daily Ravens coverage, which we do here on Locked On Ravens every single weekday, as well as so many other things. We have daily content for you really every single day. So be sure you hit the like and subscribe button again in video form, and follow along and subscribe in audio form. Same show, both audio and video, so you're not missing out any which way. Be sure to also tell a friend, tell a family member. We're here for them, just like we're here for you on Locked On Ravens if they want some daily Ravens coverage. You can follow me over on social media too, at ChaosStriker34 on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, the whole 9 yards. Let's dive into a bit, though, of a mini Ravens-Lions preview, and it's something that, again, going to be a really good game on Monday night. Both teams 1-1, looking to pick up a big Week 3 win. Now, the Ravens right now, in terms of the passing and rushing offense for them, they're number 2 in rushing offense and number 7 in passing offense. The defense is where they're kind of middling right now. They improved their stats a lot in that department because of that Cleveland game in week 2. They are now the 19th rated pass defense compared to on the run defensive side of things, they're the 16th. Now for the Lions, they are a team that's pretty interesting because their pass offense is number 6. Their run offense, though, is pretty middling. Their pass defense is not good at number 25, and their run defense is number 14. Now, of course, Jared Goff is the guy here at the quarterback position you got to worry about. He is tied with Lamar Jackson for the most passing touchdowns in the NFL with 6, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that they absolutely demolished the Bears in week number 2. But look, he has so many weapons around him, much like Lamar does, right? A Shamir Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, David Montgomery, right? There are so many players that can make plays here, which is why it's important for the Ravens to be on their P's and Q's when you talk about that defense. You have to be able to stop the Lions, and particularly don't let the run game get going. We're going to talk about this leading up to the game. Like, this is one of the huge keys. Stop the Lions' run game to make them one-dimensional on offense. I say it a lot for a lot of different teams the Ravens play. Like, that's a big goal. But with how electric Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are as a 1-2 punch, you do not want to be guessing with those guys. You want to get up early, and then you yourself as an offense, if you're the Ravens, use play action to, and again, like on defense, you got guys like Brian Branch, Aiden Hutchinson, like they have guys on that defense that can make an impact, like all across the board. So while the pass defense hasn't really been great, I mean, Terrion Arnold obviously is someone you got to look at there. Kirby Joseph, DJ Reed is probably going to be on Zay Flowers. We talked to Matt Derry about that post of Locked On Lions on yesterday's show. So many intriguing matchups to watch. And one thing that I'm looking at for the Baltimore offense is those underrated receivers again, right? Can DeAndre Hopkins make some more plays? Can Tez Walker continue to step up? Maybe Tyler Wallace gets involved. And actually, we had Nick Moore, the Ravens long snapper, on the show on Tuesday, and he talked about DeAndre and Tez and kind of what they've brought to the table for the Ravens. So I want to play that clip from Nick because I think that those guys could also have impacts on this Monday night game. It's almost like the young guy and the vet making impacts and helping your team win. I mean, what's it like watching those two play?
You know, I think it's funny that people are surprised that DeAndre Hopkins, now playing with arguably the best quarterback in the league, is doing well. I mean, did we forget that he at one point was the most dominant receiver in all of the NFL? And I think he's the best catcher of the football of arguably anybody that's ever played the game. The guy catches everything. It's unbelievable. The touchdown he had against Buffalo was insane. I see him do stuff in practice. Like I was laughing because they were doing a drill and they showed it in one of our meetings, and they were doing a drill, and D goes out there, does like they're doing this catching drill. D goes out there, catches one-handed, and then one of the young guys goes out there, tries to catch it one-handed, and they were like, "No, only DeAndre can catch it one-handed. Everybody else has to catch it with two hands." I'm like, because the guy can catch anything. His hands are so big, it's just unbelievable. So for me, I am not surprised. But Tez, man, people forget that he's got like world-class speed. Yes. Like he's like an actual runner. Like he runs like 100-meter. Like the guy's like legit fast. Like in a straight line, he might be the fastest guy on our team.
So those are the types of players that I think are going to have to make impacts. Underrated players that step up. And by the way, we have Nick on. We have him on usually once per week, if not more. We have him on the squad show, and we also generally have him on Tuesdays. So be sure you check out all our conversations with Nick and tune in the future because he is super insightful with what he has to say. He's incredible. So it's awesome to have him on, get his insight. But like, it's true. Like players like DeAndre, Tez, like others as well. We saw TJ Tampa have a nice pass breakup. Like these rookies are going to have impacts. It's not just about, or not all about, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Kyle Hamilton. Like it's not just about the stars. The underrated guys have to step up, and the Lions also, like Isaac Tesla, right? He's made a couple of big catches for them over the course of the first 2 weeks. Those underrated guys, they might be the storyline in this game. But so many other storylines we'll get to. We'll probably have some bonus episodes over the weekend because we know there are headlines throughout the season. So we'll dive into that. And of course, the regular show will be back on Monday, and that'll be game day. So we'll dive into a bunch of different things relating to the Ravens and Lions matchup. So that's all I have for you here today. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button in video form and follow along in audio form for 5 days a week of daily Ravens coverage plus more. And I will see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.